Hey everyone, welcome to the ultimate guide for Anime Multiverse. If you're finding it tough to take down those powerful enemies and feel like you're stuck in a loop of endless retrees, don't worry, you're not alone. Chances are you're not using the best powers in the game. But hey, that's what I'm here for. Today, we're diving into the world of Anime Multiverse powers and breaking down which ones are absolutely worth your hard-earned gems. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for this. In this video, I'll walk you through a tier list that'll help you figure out what's hot and what's not so hot. Whether you're chasing those epic wins or just want to flex on your friends, having the right power can make all the difference. So before you go spending gems on random rolls, let's make sure you know what's worth it. Ready to supercharge your gameplay? Let's get into it. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking powers in Anime Multiverse. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. The powers in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Kamehameha, Kick Course, Gum Gum, Rasengan, Ceroblast, Kunai, and Highest Hachis. Oh boy, let's dive into the dark side of Anime Multiverse powers, shall we? These are the D tier powers, the ones you only pick when your luck is bad or you're looking to spice things up with a challenge. Trust me, we've all been there, scrolling through the options, seeing the flashy names, and then realizing, yeah, this ain't it. But hey, even these underdogs have their moments, so let's break them down. First up, Kamehameha. It's iconic, it's flashy, it's got range for days, and solid damage to boot. But here's the catch. The cooldown is so long, you could probably go make a sandwich before it's ready to fire again. Sure, it's satisfying to pull off, but waiting around with no backup options? Not ideal. It's like bringing a bazooka to a knife fight, and then realizing it's a single shot. Now, Kick Course actually surprised me. It's got some decent damage, the cooldown isn't too painful, and the AoE, chef's kiss. If you're in a crowd, this one might just save you from getting clobbered. But let's not get carried away. It's not the game changer you'd hope for, more like a solid pick when nothing better's on the table. Still, props to Kick Course for keeping things semi-reliable in this tier. On the flip side, we've got Gum Gum. This one's like your dependable, middle-of-the-road power. It's got decent damage, it breaks armor, and the cooldown won't leave you twiddling your thumbs. But that's it. Nothing flashy, nothing game-breaking, just good old consistency. If D tier had a most average award, Gum Gum would win it hands down. Rasengan and Kunai though? Now, these are two completely different vibes. Rasengan hits decently hard but falls flat on armor breaking, while Kunai has amazing cooldown speed and armor break. But the damage? It's basically a love tap. And then there's Ceroblast, which feels like Kunai's cooler, older sibling. Slightly better, but still nowhere near the big leagues. Finally, there's Highest Hachis. This one's got decent stats where it counts, with damage and cooldown being perfectly serviceable. But the armor break? Yeah, it's basically non-existent. It's like a strong punch with no follow-through. You'll hit him, but you won't leave a dent where it matters most. So, there you have it. Our D tier roster. They're not exactly winning awards, but hey, they've got their quirks. Let me know in the comments. Which of these powers has actually saved your bacon in a match? Or are you just praying to the RNG gods for something better? The powers in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, White Ripple, Magma, Overdrive, and Super Saiyan. Alright, let's dive into some of the powers in Anime Multiverse that might not be the first pick for most players, but still pack a punch in their own right. We're talking about C tier powers today. The ones that might not always shine like the S tiers, but can still hold their ground if used correctly. Let's kick things off with White Ripple. This power's all about delivering solid DPS with a pretty decent cooldown, so it can be a reliable choice for continuous damage. The catch though is that it doesn't do much when it comes to armor break. So if you're facing tougher enemies, you might want to have something else to break through that defense. Next up, we have Magma, which is like a walking explosion waiting to happen. This power has great AoE damage and applies a burn debuff to enemies, which can be really useful for chipping away at health over time. However, the big downside here is the long cooldown. You'll have to plan your attacks carefully because you won't be able to spam it as often as you'd like. If you can time it right though, the damage and debuff can be totally worth it. Now, let's talk about Overdrive. This one's a bit of a hidden gem if you're looking for good damage with low cooldowns. It's great for keeping up constant pressure on your opponents. Plus, it comes with the bonus of excellent armor break, so you'll be able to tear through even the toughest enemies. The only thing is, while it's great for a more consistent, balanced approach, it lacks the explosive impact some other powers have. Still, if you're a fan of sustainability in battle, Overdrive is definitely a solid choice. Last but definitely not least is Super Saiyan. This one gives you a 30% buff to punch damage, which is pretty sweet for anyone who loves to throw hands. But here's the thing, the cooldown is extremely long, so you can't just keep spamming it. If you're playing around with it, make sure you use it at the right time for maximum effect. It's one of those powers that rewards patience and timing over pure spamming. If you can manage to land it right, your punch damage is going to be absolutely wild. But be warned, you'll have to wait a bit before you can throw out another one. The powers in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Ackerman Flurry, Solar Punch, and Space Ripper. Let's dive into some of the B tier powers in Anime Multiverse. And trust me, while they may not be the absolute best, they still pack a punch when used correctly. First up, we've got Ackerman Flurry. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this one has its moments. The damage output is decent and the cooldown is low, which makes it a solid choice in certain situations. But, and here's the kicker, the AoE is pretty lackluster. It's not the easiest to use either. It can feel a bit clunky, especially when you're trying to hit multiple targets. If you've got better options, you might want to pass, but if you're in a pinch, it'll do the job. Next on the list is Solar Punch. This one's a bit of a mixed bag. It shines when you're up against bosses. Solar Punch can deal some serious damage in those one-on-one situations, but when you compare it to other mythic powers, it falls a bit short. Overall, it's just not as versatile as some of the other powers out there. It's decent, don't get me wrong, but it can feel underwhelming when you have better choices available. Last but definitely not least, we have Space Ripper. Now, this power is where things get interesting. It delivers some really great damage and its cooldown is pretty decent too. But what makes Space Ripper really stand out is its ability to break armor. That can be a game changer in tougher battles, especially when you need to tear through some serious defenses. Overall, this is a solid B-tier power that can definitely make an impact if you know when and how to use it. So, while none of these powers might top your tier list, they're still worth considering if you want to add some variety to your loadout. They're not always the first pick, but in the right hands, they can still be super effective in Anime Multiverse. The powers in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Cruel Sun, Black Divider, and Dismantle. Alright, let's dive right into the power rankings for Anime Multiverse. You know, sometimes you need that perfect blend of raw damage and utility, and that's where A-tier powers come in. These are the ones you'll want in your back pocket when things start getting serious, but they're not quite at the God tier level. Let's kick things off with Cruel Sun. Cruel Sun is all about delivering high damage with a twist. It's got a nasty burn DOT effect. Think of it as that slow, painful tick of damage that makes your enemies regret crossing you. Its AoE is solid, and when used right, it can dish out a ridiculous amount of pain, especially in raid situations. If you're in need of something reliable for those big battles, this power should definitely be on your radar. It's a perfect match for those intense raids where you need both damage and control. Next up, we've got Black Divider. If you're tackling bosses or need something to help your team out, Black Divider is your go-to. What sets it apart is the Curse debuff, which increases the damage enemies take. That's huge when you're trying to burn through tough bosses or high-level enemies. Not only are you laying down some solid damage, but you're also making your enemies much squishier for everyone else to capitalize on. It's definitely a crowd favorite for those who like to play support with a punch. Now, on to Dismantle. It's a pretty straightforward power. Great for bosses, but it doesn't quite hit the same damage highs as the other two. While it's solid, especially when you're focusing on taking down tough foes, it feels like it's just a little underwhelming compared to others. The damage output is decent, but you might find yourself looking for something with a little more oomph for those tougher, faster fights. Still, it's not a bad choice. Just know it's a bit more situational when compared to the others. So there you have it. A-tier powers like Cruel Sun, Black Divider, and Dismantle are perfect for those looking for a nice balance of utility and raw power. Whether you're setting enemies on fire, cursing them to take more damage, or dismantling bosses, these powers will help you hold your own in the toughest of battles. Keep them in mind when you're gearing up for your next big fight. The powers in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Emperor's Haki, Lapse Blue, Gate of Babylon, Light Shower, and Quake. Alright, let's dive into some of the most powerful abilities in Anime Multiverse. These bad boys are perfect for raids, boss battles, and just wrecking everything in sight. I'm talking about the meta tier powers that'll have you dominating the battlefield and looking like a total pro. Ready to see what's going to make you the ultimate force in the game? Let's break it down. First up, we've got Emperor's Haki. This one is a beast for dealing with non-boss enemies. If you're clearing out mobs in raids, this ability is your best friend. It boosts your damage like crazy, making it a must-have for any raid-focused player. And let's be honest, it feels pretty epic to unleash that much power, especially when you're mowing down enemies left and right. You'll definitely be the MVP of any group you join. Next, we have Lapse Blue. This ability is all about AoE damage, which means it's going to tear through large groups of enemies in a flash. If you're looking for something that's both versatile and powerful in raids, Lapse Blue is the one. It's not just great for taking down mobs, but its AoE damage also means you're dishing out some serious hurt to bosses too. It's the kind of power that makes you feel like you're in control of the whole fight. Then there's Gate of Babylon. Now, this one is perfect for general gameplay. It's got decent damage, amazing cooldowns, and it even breaks armor and shields like nobody's business. Whether you're dealing with tough enemies or breaking through those pesky shields, Gate of Babylon is always up to the task. It's a great all-around choice that'll help you adapt to whatever the game throws at you. Trust me, having this power on your side makes a big difference. Moving on, let's talk about Light Shower. If you're looking for crowd control and some great AoE damage, this ability is definitely the one you want. It's meta for raids, and for good reason. It's fantastic for dealing with groups of enemies and keeping them under control while your teammates clean up. Plus, the sheer power it brings to the table can easily shift the momentum of any battle. You'll feel like you're walking on sunshine as you shower your enemies with light. And last but definitely not least, we have Quake. If you're taking on bosses, this power is an absolute game changer. The huge armor break it delivers is perfect for bosses with heavy defenses. When you use Quake, you're making sure those tough boss shields and armor are no match for you. It's a must-have for any serious raider who wants to make sure those boss fights don't last forever. So there you have it. These meta-tier powers are the ones you need if you want to be the king of raids and bosses. Whether it's breaking armor, dealing AoE damage, or controlling the battlefield, these abilities have got you covered. Make sure to add them to your arsenal and watch as you crush everything in your path. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.